A few months ago, 2 mass shootings happened in the United States 13 hours apart. We were then still reeling in the aftermath of the Gilroy Garlic Festival mass shooting, a shooting that took the life of a little boy who could have been any of our own sons or grandsons. After Gilroy, Twitter lost its mind, and outraged Americans furiously tweeted about the lack of gun control in the United States. Then days later, El Paso. People grocery shopping and school supply shopping, people just living their everyday lives, picking up items they needed at Walmart. Then the bullets rained down. People died. Again. Twitter went berserk, and outraged Americans furiously tweeted about the lack of gun control in the United States. It was another day in America. Till it wasn't. 13 hours later, Dayton. People enjoying themselves in a bar that night became victim to a mass shooting that happened in half a minute's time. People died again. This time, Twitter took a backseat to Americans now at a loss for words, yet full of primal rage. A rage now swollen on account of the era of mass shootings that the United States has had to endure, with the last shooting that had just happened that morning. In the 13 hours between the 2 shootings, I was ranting to my husband, and I had told him that I'd had enough of what I perceived to be gun worship, the now common culture of hate, the politics of gun control, and how I felt that we Americans have lost our way. And we had an intense and rich conversation about things going on in our society. Now, my husband and I have some differences of opinion about guns, but as husbands and wives know, there are some things you agree to disagree about. So we let the conversation be, till that night, Dayton. After these shootings, I found myself living in a paradox. I was numb to the norm of mass shootings, yet hopeful that somehow we Americans could turn it around and somehow stop the horror with our iconic American can-do attitude and willpower. Our theme for this event, 2030, Where Are We Headed, wasn't a confusing thought for me. I was still very optimistic that 2030 could be the best year in American history. In fact, I initially based my TED Talk on the premise that we could come together and in 2030 we can make our world, or at least our nation, a better place than it is today. But after the back-to-back mass shootings in Texas and Ohio, I had no idea what to say anymore. I was clueless. I was confused. I was like any other American. The shootings spoke to me about who we are as human beings and who we are as the American people. We're a people who need to remember what it is to fully engage with one another. For example, texting. It's something somewhat natural to us now, yet it's anything but natural. It's rewired our brains to the point that we genuinely believe a problem exists if we don't hear the ping on our phones soon enough. So in order for us to make 2030 better, not worse, we must relearn, or learn for the first time, how to connect with one another in real time. We need to learn how to love one another and how to communicate with one another again, and not allow intermediaries like Facebook and Twitter to do it for us. As I was thinking about where we're headed, I was confused, but a central theme emerged, which is we can never outsource our humanity to someone or something else and expect a better future. We haven't done it for long, but long enough that we are so disengaged from one another and our humanity that mass shootings are passé. For example, Facebook tried to get us to outsource our love and our attention. We have allowed Facebook to create a personalized echo chamber for us in which it recommends friends, restaurants, online groups, online conversations, and news and sports information, and even gaming to us. That's not real life. Facebook tried, and it partially succeeded in outsourcing our time and attention to the point where we seem to be alienated from each other more than ever, yet seemingly addicted to their app. A set of computer codes that's been programmed to learn how to influence the metrics of our self-worth, how to influence the dynamics of our interpersonal relationships, and how to hook and how to keep our attention. If our attention is on Facebook, then when do we have the time to love each other? When do we have the time to put in the sweat equity it takes to build a better future for ourselves and for future generations? Our attention is a hot commodity for these tech companies, and there's a reason that likes, clicks, and click-through rates are a thing. The attention we should be giving to one another is instead given to these billion-dollar corporations at the expense of our time, our attention, and our capacity to love. See, we trade our humanity for these tech companies to devise the next gimmick that siphons even more of us. We are not engaging with one another. We are not engaging with one another, and to the point where we really don't know our neighbor. We try, and it seems as if we're all in our own isolated echo chamber. For example, when was the last time a friend called you up to check on you to see how you're doing? When was the last time you reached out to a friend to see how they were doing? When was the last time we asked our fellow human, "How are you?" and meant it? We've outsourced our time and our attention to social media, which keeps us from loving our fellow human and loving them in person. We've also outsourced our love and our compassion to others, reminiscent of the bystander effect. Someone else will be there for our dad who has Alzheimer's because I don't have the time to do it. I have no time to deal with it. Just let our parents' life savings deal with their predicament, their medications, the payment for the retirement home. It'll be fine. Or someone will be there for the mom whose 10-year-old daughter just committed suicide. I mean, she was just bullied on social media and at school. I mean, that's what school principals are for, right? That's why we pay property tax. Or your children were sexually abused? Good luck with that. Keep me posted. It is no small wonder that both kids and adults have their faces in front of a screen for hours on end every day. But what are we running from? Are we so afraid of real life that we settle for substitutes, social media and other people, to filter reality? Are we now so inept and terrified of real life that when we have to live it, we can't function? Bad things happen. Life happens. And it seems as if none of us is anywhere to be found. We're right in front of each other, except we're not present in the moment with each other. In 2030, do we want Facebook to be our matchmaker for our relationships because we can't do it in person? Do we want Twitter to be our de facto news source because trending topics gives us a dopamine rush that we won't know how to get elsewhere? Do we want texting to be our primary form of communication because we lost the art of conversation? We have outsourced the very traits that make us human, but we can never outsource our humanity to something or someone else and expect a better future. By outsourcing our time and our attention to social media, we're more disconnected than ever. By outsourcing our love and our compassion to others, we still don't know what the fundamental flaw is that makes mass shootings not an anomaly, but what seems to be a weekly occurrence. Still waiting on someone else to figure it out for us so we can read about it on our phones. If we were to have any idea of the life we'll have and where we'll be in 2030, we need to individually answer this question. Do I want to engage with others? And can I? We're capable of being truthful with ourselves. We're also capable of doing what we know needs to be done. Taking ownership of our time, our attention, and our love can be done, but only if we choose to do it. So let's do it. Our future depends on it. Thank you.